They'll probably hear you in the back. Hello, everybody. I am on here trying to do some troubleshooting. So the people that are on this panel are on Zoom right now, and we just don't know why Zoom is not allowing us to come on here. So I know it's been 20 minutes, and I apologize because I hate wasting people's time. Um, but I'm just seeing if how many people can get on, and then we're going to see how we can try to either postpone this. I don't know if it's just user error that it may be the case. It seemed a little bit easier another time. So let me just first of all introduce what we're going to be doing. And if I can, I'm going to try to get the ladies involved, but if not, we might need to postpone it for another time. So let's see who is coming on. I'll just wait a little bit. And look at some of these messages.
Where are you live at? I can't find you.
It says I'm recording on
It doesn't show you live on Facebook.
now what the heck is going on? I'm sorry. Does anybody see me? If you can't get the connection to work, you might want to have a discussion and record replay for later. Um, Vinny, are you seeing me on here, or you just posted a comment? I'm waiting for Vinny to respond. Vinny, if you can hear me, please respond if you can actually see me because other people cannot.
Yeah, you're not live on here.
Can see you. Okay, Shelly, you can see and hear me? Okay. They can see and hear me. Where are you looking at?
She's not looking in the empowerment firm. She's Joanna. She's in her page, the group page. That's the page she's on. That's the page she's live on, not from her personal page.
Oh, from the empowerment firm. Okay, I see you now.
And Vinny or Shelly, do you hear the other lady speaking? Awesome. Okay, thank you, Shelly. So what I will do,
Can they hear us?
you guys can hear. So you can hear the other, just to reiterate, Shelly, you can hear the other ladies. A lady speaks and say something, say your names, and then Shelly, if you can respond. I do. Okay, Vinny says he does hear you. Okay, do you guys want to, let's just have the discussion. We'll start off, since there are people joining, and we don't want to keep people waiting. So first of all, we apologize. I apologize because it wasn't the lady's fault. I thought I had everything together. I tried to do my due diligence, but I guess me and Zoom just do not get along at all. And I did something wrong, so I do apologize for the wasted time because I hate wasting people's time. Um, we're gonna have let me go to my notes as you guys are waiting. Okay. And ladies, I don't know if you can, I'm going to take myself off a host on Zoom and maybe that will allow um, you guys to go. So while we're on Zoom, I'm going to let it record and then I'll do the playback on FaceTime later.
Okay.
Let's get that done real quick. Um, um, Anika, I'm going to make you the host on Zoom. I don't know if that will do
Okay.
anything.
Okay. I'm here.
I
Yeah.
see you. I don't see the other ladies. Okay, so for my Facebook people, um, welcome for one thing, and I wanted to just do a few housekeeping rules. Again, I apologize. This is not my norm. I am really that type of person. I'd rather be an hour early than 10 minutes late. So I apologize. Like I said, probably user error on Zoom, but the ladies are on Zoom while I am on Facebook with you. So we'll publish the video later, but we'll do the discussion now. So just some general housekeeping. This panel was assembled to create a productive, meaningful, and necessary dialogue that we desire to produce tangible results. If that is not the purpose for you being here, please excuse yourself now. Please be mindful of your comments in the post that you post. But if you are not, I'm going to say right now, be blocked and be blessed. So as we go on, I'm going to have the ladies introduce themselves. Joanna, could you go first?
Sure. My name is Joanna Sweat, and I'm a United States Marine Corps veteran. I served nearly 10 years, and I served in the OIF Iraq in 2003. I currently work in veteran advocacy and am a co-founder of an organization called Vets Forward.
Awesome. Okay, Anika?
Hey, my name is Anika Chambers, and I am a U.S. Army vet. I served 7.5 years with 2 tours in Iraq and in Kosovo. My day job now is I'm a full-time singer, and so I
Ooh,
go around and sing the blues and soul music. And thanks for the invitation.
awesome. And Christine, are you there?
I am. My video is not up, but hello everyone. My name is Christine Tremblay. I also am a Army veteran. I served 8.5 years. I did a tour in Kosovo with Miss Anika Chambers. We were roommates part of that tour, and she serenaded me all the time. So if y'all haven't had the chance to listen to her sing, definitely do so. My normal job now, I work full time for the state of Texas, the government, and I am very excited to be here.
Awesome. Okay. I was just trying to figure out, me still trying to figure things out and make you guys all of your videos work on Zoom. But anyway, so going on, I wanted to ask each of the ladies on the panel, what was the purpose of you joining the military? Anybody can go. I'm not going to call your name.
I'll take it. I'll take it. My story was a little bit pretty. I'm pretty sure everybody has their own reasons and whatnot. I did it as I guess as a favor to a friend. because she wanted to join the Army Reserves. And so she told me, you go ahead and do it. And if you like it when you get back, then I'll do it. So me, I was 17 at the time when she, I guess, propositioned me with the idea. So of course, 17, you don't really think. So I'm like, great, that sounds amazing. So sure enough, I signed up, and that is why I joined. And I chose the Army specifically. I considered Air Force. My whole family is Air Force, but I chose the Army just because I wanted more of the, I guess, like the physicality part of it. I just wanted to. You just think Army, and you think adventure and whatnot, and got way more out of it than what I expected. But so I guess, yeah, my joining was kind of as a dare, not the
Interesting.
normal story. Yeah. True story. And the girl did join after me, just so y'all know. And she did, yeah, she did her 6 years after me.
Oh, wow.
Good.
Yes, yes. So very true story.
Wow, wow. That's interesting. Well, I'm going to tell
Very.
mine since because mine is not like yours. I graduated high school and I just didn't know what to do. I was that nerd that really just didn't know what to do. I literally actually had a scholarship to YSU, which because I'm from Ohio, that's Youngstown State University, because I was in the physics Olympics and I went to the physics Olympics at that campus. And I literally just did not have any direction. I didn't have any mentors. I didn't have anything. So I took the year off and I didn't know what I was going to do. I moved to Atlanta, Georgia from Ohio. And then I moved back and I was like, I want to do something. My father was Vietnam drafted. I have a brother that retired Air Force and grandfathers that served and all of that, basically a lot of family members. But I was just like, I literally just went down there and like, what can I do? kind of thing. And that was kind of my story. It was like, it was not necessarily all the way thought out. I just know I wanted to do something and I didn't know at that point if I just wanted to go to school. So I was like, let's do something else. Let's, like you said, kind of like adventurous. I thought I was G.I. Jane at the time. So that was kind of my story. So, Anika?
Well, my mom and dad were teenagers when they had me, so my grandparents raised me, and so my grandfather was a Vietnam vet, and I I wanted to be like him. So I knew once I was in high school, I was in ROTC and stuff, and I knew my family couldn't afford to send me to like an expensive college because college in America is very expensive. So, of course, the recruiters, walking around high schools all the time, and I was just like, well, this just makes the perfect sense. It was just like an easy transition to go to the military because they were going to pay for school, and I went to basic, and we deployed like about a year later to Kosovo. So I wasn't
Wow.
really in college for long before we deployed, but it's all good.
And Joanna, I don't know if you want to speak
Um,
up.
so I guess some commonalities with a few of you, but growing up, my father was actually older than most of my peers' parents. He was born in 1941, and he
Mm.
joined the Air Force during the Civil Rights era.
Oh, wow.
And retired in the early 80s when I was pretty young. Still, I think I was 9 when he officially retired from his career, 28 years. So for 9 of my years, I was a military brat.
Oh, wow.
And then growing up the rest of my life in Northern California, I had never thought about the military. It wasn't even pressed upon me by my father. I don't remember ever having that conversation. And then my last year in high school, he took a job at Luke Air Force Base in Arizona, and we moved. And I met my husband in my last 2 years of high school. Sorry. And before senior year graduation, I found out that I was pregnant. And my plan was to go to college. I was going to go to Spelman in Atlanta.
Oh,
And so a lot of my life plans kind of stopped there. and I had to make some decisions. So I was working hard, and then I had a friend who was a year younger than me in high school, and she had decided haphazardly one day that she was going to join the Marine Corps. And we were very close. She was actually the godmother of my daughter. And so I went and talked to a Marine Corps recruiter after not knowing anything about the Marine Corps because I grew up in the Air Force Army environment. And I became enamored immediately. The Marine Corps puts on a really good presentation. I was an athlete in school. And they just talked about a lot of opportunity that I thought that I could take advantage of, that I couldn't now as a young mother with a child. And so my recruiter actually paid for me and my husband to get married.
Oh, wow.
So that I could apply for what's called the two dependent waiver to be able to join. So I took off for boot camp at 19, leaving my husband and my baby daughter behind.
Wow.
And that's kind of how I ended up in the Marine Corps. But I loved every minute of it, despite the traumas that I experienced. And I had hoped to make it my career.
Wow.
So that's kind of my story.
Thank you. So, next question. What was the ideal or image of what the military was or represented, and when did that change, if it ever changed?
Oh, man, I'll go first. So I joined for that stability, that financial, what do you call, stability, knowing that I was going to get paid, knowing I was going to get trained to do a job. And then having grown up in that experience, in kind of that lower middle class arena with my family, it seemed like that would be a great stepping stone and that I'd be stable and our family could be stabilized. But that blew up in our situation's face immediately because although I got permission to join on a two dependent waiver, when you go to boot camp and you go to training and your MOS school, you do not get paid as having a family. You get paid just like the standard recruit. And then, you sign up for the GI Bill back then because I joined in the 90s. I'm a lot older than most of y'all, I think. And then my first duty station that they gave me was an unaccompanied tour to Okinawa, Japan. And so I went on this journey thinking I was going to get to bring my family along right away and we would have this lifestyle that I remembered having with my parents.
Yeah.
But remember, I missed the first 20 years or 19 years of my dad's service, so I didn't really know. And so in the beginning, it was very depressing for me because what I envisioned was this, nuclear family coming together, but instead we were really stripped away and separated for a long period of time. And being that young and being young parents, you can only imagine the stress and the turmoil that put on us. And then to be overseas without your family, not being able to call home, because back then we didn't have cell phones, and the long distance calls cost a whole month's paycheck.
Wow.
And I was getting deducted for my GI Bill, and I think I was making like not even $300 on the 1st and the 15th. I couldn't even send money home. And so it took us, our first enlistment was a real doozy, let me tell you. But I had great leadership that knew the strength of me as a Marine, and my dedication to my job. And I had a lot of support in that arena and making sure that I could still be successful, even though we were broke as hell and I could barely feed my kids.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. It really puts a backstory to, because I've known you for a little bit, but it's nice to hear the backstories or get a better perception of what people have gone through, even in those elements and the stepping stones to your career. So thank you for that. Does anybody else want to share?
I think that across all the boards of the military, that it was always this kind of like the brave, the proud, army of one, that type of stuff. And I feel like a lot of us were sold like, this dream or this pipeline dream, and I wanted to go to college. That was my priority, and my recruiter made that in his, in his spiel to me that, I was going to be able to, go to college. I did go. He was right. I was going to go to college, but just not on my, in my time and on my terms,
Mm.
So, um, as far as did it change, I won't say that it changed. I think that we got in and we just had to adjust to the culture because we had already signed up. It's not like we
Mm.
can get in and just be like,
Oh yeah.
okay, well, this ain't for me, so I'm done. So
Yeah.
we kind of have to, adapt and overcome is what they tell us. So,
Hmm.
yeah.
For me, it was, similar to Nika in the fact that, you think of the military and it's the brave and, they're so admirable. And, our military servicemen and servicewomen are really held in high regard. So, like, growing up, I grew up military. I grew up military in a unique way that by the time I was born, my father was medically retired 100% from the Air Force. He suffered a heart attack at the age of 26,
Oh
and
wow.
he survived, but so he was 100% disabled. And so we grew up, I grew up right outside Randolph Air Force Base, which, if you're familiar with the area, we're right by Fort Sam. So I was surrounded by military. My grandfather lived right by us. He served 30 years in the Air Force. He actually started in the Army Air Corps. Both, well, I have four brothers, but two of them joined the Air Force right out of high school. They went active duty. So my whole childhood was infused with military, 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 military. My dad always said, "You either join the military, or you go to college." I knew I wanted to go to college, but I was like, "Well, let me do the reserves, and then I can come back home." So for me, it was just I had the impression of just it being such a an admirable community, and it was the right thing to do. And I was going to kind of have the both the best world. I was going to be in the military, and then I was also going to be in college. But I kind of had that experience like Joanna was saying. I joined straight out of high school, but no children. I came back from my basic in AIT and got pregnant with my oldest daughter. And then 4 years later, I had my second daughter. So when it came time for deployment, I kind of was a Joanna. I had two young children. They were 5 and 1, and I had to leave for 15 months.
Wow.
That never in my wildest dream was anything I ever expected when I joined the military. Never expected that. So it totally took a different shift from when I originally had joined.
Mm.
Wow. Okay, ladies, I'm going to read you some stats and then I'm going to get your opinion. So, last year, fiscal year 2019, this it was a survey, and this information is from. I'll post the link below. It's the Department of Defense fiscal year annual report. And so the surveys they took in that year estimated 20,500 assaults, well, survey estimated sexual assaults.
Mm.
And 0.7% of those were men, the other 6.2% were women. So that number comes out to be 19,159 assaults on women, estimated assaults, and then 1,341 estimated assaults on men.
Mm.
And then another number of actual reported sexual assaults was 6,236 in 2019. Um, with that, I want to give you some numbers of how many people are actually in the military as far as women. If I can pull that report up. So, at a, as of May 2020, this year, there are actually, and this is active duty military, there's 228,473 women that are in the military in active duty. The number of men active duty is 1,099,127. So with those numbers of, actual female women and men in the military, and the numbers of sexual assaults, and the percentage of sexual assaults on women, or no, the percentage of women in the military, I should say, is 17%. Well, a little over 17%, 17.21%. When you hear those numbers, what does that make you feel? What does that make you think about?
For me, what I see with the greater number being in the male sex than the female, you're already set up for a problem. If you can't recognize that right off the bat, when Nika and I were deployed to Kosovo, I remember when we got there and they were telling us the numbers. So we were K47, Kosovo 47. We were the 7th rotation to arrive in Kosovo, and each rotation served a year. And I remember when we got there, they had told us that there were 1,000 soldiers approximately, and of those 1,000, there was only 100 of us females.
Mm-hmm.
So you have 900 males and 100 females.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Anybody can look at those numbers and already see we're going to have a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's unfortunate because they place so many restrictions on females when it comes to the military. Obviously females, we're the ones that we carry children and we have children. And I'm so proud of Joanna for still, as a mother, going and joining after the fact, because I'm going to tell you right now, most females, if they have a child, it's so much harder to then join the military. So you get a lot of restrictions as a female, and it makes it harder to join. So you have such an imbalance in the number between the two sexes. That's already right there, I think, is kind of the root of the problem. Not only that, young people join the military. You get people of all ages, but it's typically, how old are you when you join and you go to basic and all of that. So you have young males and there's a few young females. That's a way that I don't think a lot of people look at it unless you're in and you've done it and you've been there, and then you understand how just unbalanced it is.
Yeah, the disparity of the numbers, is so grand. When you say the percentage, it doesn't sound that bad. But when you hear 1 million men to 200,000 some women, that's just incredulous. And it goes to speak to how then people, young people specifically, male and women, are driven into the service, and the ideas and the rhetoric they receive at the onset of arriving at boot camp, when then you're presented a situation where males are training over here and women are training over here, which is the Marine Corps style of doing things. I know a lot of other branches have started to integrate, and I think that's good on some level, because I think the earlier the exposure occurs, the better. The more that you can train hand in hand and they can see what we're capable of, the less shit we have to fucking deal with, excuse my language. But what happens is that these numbers are so broadly different. Then you go to this environment, and then I know for a fact on the male side at Marine Corps boot camp, whenever, like at Parris Island, that's the only place where women train. And so whenever they see us, like, you hear the rhetoric their drill instructors give them, like, oh, look at those nasty girls over there. Don't look at them. They'll get you in trouble. This, that, and the third, which is all negative rhetoric. And then it's already a hyper misogynist male testosterone environment, right? So who knows how far and how deep that rhetoric goes based on the individual that's leading those troops at the time. And then you're getting that from leadership. So you think, okay, well, this is the culture. This is how I need to be. And so that's how they start creating these divisions between us. And so for me, I remember when I joined in the late 90s in the Marine Corps, General Krulak, who was the commandant at the time, had decided that he was going to integrate more women Marines into supportive MOS environments. And so what that meant was, even though there were women that were working in supply and communications and different supportive roles that wasn't quite infantry, that supported the infantry directly, there were just few women in those roles. And so the drive, and then they created like this buddy program. So I remember like my whole platoon of women, we were strong with like 3 different MOSs. A third of us were all going to be in communications. So we went to boot camp together. We went to combat training together, and we went to MOS school together because they thought that it would be important to keep the women together, so we would have that network and that positive mentorship within our peers as we integrated. But of course, when it was time to arrive in Okinawa, then there's 12 of us at that point in time that went into that MOS, or maybe 20. I can't really recall the number. But then we arrived all at the same time on a base that is predominantly and primarily male, a grunt training base at Camp Hansen. And I guarantee prior to us coming, there wasn't like this sit down and have this conversation about how we will receive these women, respect these women, and train with them. I'm sure the rhetoric was more like, oh crap, we got a bunch of women coming. This, don't do this, don't do that, or whatever. And so again, it creates that animosity. And so I experienced that a lot in the beginning, where even senior male leadership like looked at me like I was the plague, or didn't want to get too close, or didn't want to provide the orders that they tell another person to tell you. So it's like they create this environment where it's already like, I'm here, I belong, but not really, unless then, I follow suit with some of the stuff that they start to kind of infiltrate women with on that, brainwashing or cultural embedment, where, then you got to be like me, or you got to be this type of woman for me to accept you. And so it creates these horrible gender roles in the service because of all this huge population of male to women. And there's no sensitivity training about it. Nobody had a discussion, even back in World War II, when they started advancing women into support, those supportive roles while the men were at war, it was like, yes, these women are great, but in the end they thought they'd go away, but we're here to stay.
Right. Right.
Joanna's very correct. There was no training ever at any point. Basic training, AIT, deployments, no training ever that, discussed, males and females, and, the way that, we should interact with one another. And they just...
And how many points of periods of instruction do we have on how to act and behave before we go into foreign countries?
Non-stop. From appearance, the way you walk, the way you eat, the way, your whole life, and we all know this, is structured. This is what I tell people that have never been in the military, and if they're a female and they've been pregnant, I say, when you're pregnant, you don't get to wear what you want to wear. You don't get to eat what you want to wear anymore. Sleep when you want to sleep. Everything is operated around your pregnancy. That's a small kind of scale of being in the military. You get zero control. Zero control. Everything.
That's a good analogy.
On being proper and do this and do that. Walk this way, talk this way, march this way, shoot your rifle this way. But nothing is ever spoken of when it comes to conduct. When harassment.
Unless we're getting safe sex classes.
Yeah. I mean, you even get that in high school, but when you join the military, no.
Wow. Thank you, Leigh. Go ahead.
I think I'll be brief. This is why I've always said, when we talk about the sensitivity training and why it's important, because if you're going to lock us on a base, and if you're going to lock us on a base for deployment, or, any time you lock us on a base, if you're going to do that, this is why you need to show, as, young, because like you say, when we join, we're young, females, show us what is acceptable and what's not acceptable, because we're young, impressionable, we're naive. We don't know. We know something doesn't feel right, but we don't know that we should report. If someone is doing something bad to us. But and on the other end of that, when you add all the training that we do, like y'all said, we need to teach these men, male soldiers, how to interact with us, because even we know in the civilian world, a lot of men don't really know how to work with us, talk to us, get nervous or whatever. But one of the things I will say about trauma and being locked on a base, and me, I experienced two traumas. Men become, because of the imbalance of male to females, men become animalistic, and that testosterone builds up and builds up and builds up. And what do animals do? They go after their prey. Eventually, they go after. They watch and watch and watch and watch, and boom, then they attack. And that's what a lot of the military is. You have the imbalance of men to women. We're gonna one man put on my video on Facebook. He said, "Well, what did you expect?" And that's a fair. I'll give him that. That's a fair question. It doesn't make it right that I suffered the trauma, but he is like, "What did you expect?" It's more men than it is women, and this is going to continue to happen.
And that's sad that that's the sentiment that he leaves you with, was what did you expect? Because what you expected was to serve your country honorably.
Right.
That was all was part of the expectations.
Right.
And so that's a horrible thing when I hear any man say, well, then, women shouldn't be doing this. That's a clear example. And it's like, we shouldn't be doing something because somebody else can't behave. I don't understand that way of thinking. And these are the same men who have wives. These are the same men who have children, daughters, and I'm sure they don't want them to experience this. But somehow in their conscience, they don't separate it. And I when you think about those numbers, and then I hear you say, you went through this trauma 2 times. I went through military sexual trauma 3 times, and then a really serious sexual harassment with the senior master sergeant. After dealing with all that trauma, on top of that, but then at that point in time, really being empowered to use my voice and be like, I'm not putting up with this shit anymore. But that's sad, because you have so many women who don't report. I never reported the 3 traumas that I had, based on guidance from leadership and what that would do to me, the punishment that would come on me for being a victim, my God. And then to hear that scale of, 1 million men to 200,000 women, and we're just 3 women on here, and between 2 women, we already have 5 incidents. And so this is a problem that needs to be addressed at the recruitment level. There needs to be training with poolies, and that's something I really took seriously. That was part of my second half of the career when I came back from Iraq, was I was a military recruiter. And I'll tell you, I only put 3 women in the Marine Corps my whole 3 years out there, because I didn't want to put in any woman that I knew couldn't speak up for herself, or didn't really understand the way I understood the things that they would have to deal with. And that's a horrible thing, because I became a recruiter because I really loved the Marine Corps. I believed what it can give you, what it can set you up for in life. And then for me to tell women who actually want to join, well, I need to tell you this side of the Corps too. And then you need to make a self-evaluation before you make that decision, if you can have the capacity, to deal with that as well. And my own daughter, she never grew up thinking about the military, but I told her every damn day, don't think about it. We will find a way for you to achieve your dreams without you having to go through that. And I don't even want my sons in the environment, until I understand there's better leadership happening and there are better tools to support victims.
We have a question, and I'm going to read it. This is Shelley. She said that, where is the balance with this, though? She said, many females and males don't want to have this type of discussion because it adds to the differences instead of the unit cohesion. It puts more attention on the females. Anybody want to address that?
I mean, just like, the race issue that we have going on right now, it's always going to be painful in the beginning and it's raw, but it's got to be done. And eventually it's going to get better, but you got to start somewhere. And I totally understand what she's talking about. It is going to put, all the attention on the females. But you know what? I mean, and I can only speak on behalf of myself, but I'm pretty sure y'all feel the same. I'm ready for it to be discussed. I'm ready for it to be, brought up. Like, kind of, like we've been waiting, and we're tired of being silenced. And I wanted to go back to when I was in my first unit that I was assigned to. I was in the logistics field first, and it was a reserve unit. There was only 4 females, and that was including myself. So you know what I did? It was super uncomfortable going to drill, month after month, doing my 2 weeks out of the summer, and there's only 3 other females around. I changed my MOS and switched over to HR because I told my recruiter, put me somewhere where I'm going to be around other females because this is extremely uncomfortable. You have no idea. And so that's when I switched over to the HR side and did, I got assigned to a personnel services battalion, and what a difference being in a unit when it was almost 50% females and 50% males. It made all the difference.
Wow.
And what I have to say to that question is that, like, there's already been a hyper focus on us, and it's been negative. So, like, you have to work a little bit harder. You have to, you're always proving yourself. So the dialogue needs to happen because we're running ourselves ragged. And I think dialogue helps when you have real concentrated dialogue. It's one thing to just sit around the table and argue about things. But when you really share testimony and how you feel and what's happening in your life, I mean, most people have some sort of empathetic value.
Yeah.
But the conversations have to start somewhere. But a whole culture has to change and be disruptive. It's not like, let's have a school circle and just talk about this shit, because that doesn't do anything. We know what the problems are. We don't really have to talk about and dissect the problems. The problems have been there for generations.
Right.
But what we have to do is talk about the implementation of improving that culture through training, through classes, through, just even a better evaluation of potential recruits at the MEPS level. People will tell on themselves.
Yeah.
People show their true colors. It just takes a little probing. And so if somebody takes some sort of evaluation and they don't hit, this metric, then you need to have this remedial training of some sort, or while you're in the service, there needs to be more historical emphasis on the impact of women in the military, just like there needs to be more historical relevance about the people of color who've served in the military. Because my history in the military is deeply enriched from my African American ancestors, but I have to go and search for that information. When the military is always pushing out these amazing heroic stories of, like, the white male hero complex, but the military is the most diverse array of citizens. We represent the identity of America, and so that culture needs to include all of us.
Yeah.
Um,
Go ahead.
I'll just say that one thing I've said, I think in my protests, my Angela Davis mind, is that what's going on in our country is the effects of the good old boy system. We
Yeah.
all know that just because they've given us, all the, advances to where we can get the same education, the same, we can get hired at these companies, or maybe I can get some gigs, but the effects of the good old boy system has trickled down into almost every industry. And it's like, but because we're standing up and speaking and saying enough is enough. We're getting a lot of backlash for that. Oh, women are just whiny. Women are just this. No, we are well educated now. Back in the day, we were just taking care of the house. Now we're taking care of the house. We're taking care of, you got secretary positions, or we up high in, VIP positions and stuff. So I just feel like we're at a point now where, yeah, the discussions are going to be had, whether you think we're whining or not. We're going to keep talking because we're tired of the good old boy system. Yeah. We're tired of it when it comes to women. We're tired of it when it comes to race. We're tired of it when it comes to our sexuality. So, and the industries in this country needs to reflect the diversity of this country. It just shouldn't be these males at the top. That's not how it should be.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree.
I mean, we have a representative in Senate, or Congress calling another congresswoman an effing bitch. Right. This is the culture we live in America. Yeah. Or when you can't call a woman and I'm not interested, then suddenly I'm an effing bitch. It's like, when do I get to stop being a bitch? So if I'm just a bitch, well, I'm going to keep on being a bitch.
Well, a good one. Yeah.
Yeah. If you're going to do it well, I guess.
Yeah, it's definitely, not to get political, but it's very hard when we have a president that doesn't even respect the female gender. So that just creates...
Child, that's a whole nother show.
Yeah, that's a whole nother topic.
He's supposed to be our commander-in-chief, but we'll leave that alone.
That's a whole other session in itself.
The good old boy system. The good old boy system.
Yeah, that's another panel. It's
another panel discussion.
That'll take 2 nights.
Right? Yeah. So, ladies, you kind of touched on this already. Why do you think the problem is so prevalent in the military?
I think men are empowered. Men are empowered. I think men join the military. The military, when I look at all branches of the military, specifically though the Marines and the Army, it's just like this, empowerment to be in infantry, to go shoot and blow up shit, and then they get out and then they go to be cops. And I've dated men where they were in the service and then they're like, I'm going to be a cop, this and that, because then I could still have the same power I had in the military. I can go do this to regular people. I was in Iraq shooting little kids and stuff. Now I can go do the same thing in the community. And it's like, that's like psychopath.
Right.
Behavior. And that means like there needs to be better evaluations when we're, coming into the military. I remember them testing us, but I don't remember them testing us and saying like, we're going to test your mental state, because that's also
no, not at all.
Yes. Where's the ASVAB section where they make you pass the psychological evaluation? It's not there.
It's not there.
Why do they give us a physical to pass?
Yeah.
They check our I was thinking about it. They check our vaginas, but they don't check our heads.
Yeah. They sure do.
They sure do.
Breasts for lumps and stuff. And I'm thinking like, well, man, you could, even if you ask like 10 questions, have you ever thought about killing yourself? Have you ever thought about killing somebody else? Have you ever thought about killing someone close to you and your family? Have you ever just looked at somebody and been like you wanted to hurt them? Like those type of questions, like go ahead and ask the questions, and somebody's going to be crazy enough to answer yes. Okay, that person's disqualified. Yeah. That person doesn't be in the military. Let them find something else. Let them go, get in a straitjacket, whatever. But don't let them, because you're putting us at risk by letting these predators in the military.
I would say that when I was a recruiter, only maybe 1 to 3% of the people that I put in got set aside to do what's called a MEP psyche eval. And the only way they capture that is that moment of truth that you sit down with the doctor after your physical and they kind of just go over the questionnaire and ask you some questions. And then based on your demeanor or how you might respond, if the doctor determines that you need an additional evaluation, they'll submit for it. But it doesn't happen very often because, again, every day at the MEPS, they're pushing, however many recruits for all the branches of services. So you're going to have missteps. And so I can tell you as a recruiter, that environment of having to reach those numbers, like, honey, I'll tell you, there are days that we were on that last day of month and people picked up a homeless person and dressed him up and got the right identification and put them on deck, and they enlisted in whatever branch of service. Now, whether or not they survived through the whole Poolie program and made it to boot camp is another story, but a lot of them do. And that's how we get these crazy individuals in the military because of that the way that we recruit, and how they recruit, utilizing tools like the video games or things that drive you to think about the violent aspect of the career versus the honor, the courage, the part where you're a teammate to another person. And I think there's so many things that they can do in recruiting and advertising, that's more inclusive, that is less of this fantasy thing. And then we also have to remember, like, culturally, I know growing up, like, we didn't watch war on TV. My daddy didn't talk about Vietnam.
Right.
Those were suppressed secrets. And now we're a country that, we've been at war for 20 years and we've been watching people get beheaded and blown up on TV live.
Desensitized, yeah.
Like, I caught my children when they were young on YouTube looking at, Al Jazeera TV and things that they shouldn't be seeing. And so we have to take that into account
Right.
on people's mental and psychiatric state in joining the United States military. It should be, what we say it is.
Right.
The elite, the
Right.
strong, the person who exemplifies humanity. At the end of the day, the reason that we exist is to give those freedoms to everyone. Yet I, as a woman, based on today's Constitution, still do not have the amended rights that I deserve to have.
Right. You brought up a point, Joanna, but it actually could be a good evaluation point. With these kids that they play these games, there could be with like the virtual reality or the whatever, that could be a psychological evaluation in itself if it's done right.
Exactly.
Have them
Look how
play.
we operate with drones.
How do you operate in those situations? What is it, a thrill? That could be. They can evaluate that. Like, how is it stimulating you in these situations? So I just wanted to put that out there. We have another question, a statement in question. It says, I also think that females end up getting a lot more attention than they used to because of the gender ratio, and I don't think this is ever addressed during a recruitment, boot camp, etc. Did you have this experience? How did you deal with this as a 17, 18-year-old? I think, I can, I'm going to answer part of this and I'll let you ladies. I'm the type, I came in, but I was kind of raised by around all guys, so that didn't bother me as much, and I was never the type of woman that liked a lot of attention. So yes, you do get a lot of different attention, and I think how I dealt with it is because of how, like, I got the pep talk literally from like my dad. He prepped me going in because he didn't want me to go in, but he knows that I'm stubborn. I was going to go in anyway. So he did the more of the psychological prepping of what I was going to go through, not in a sense of like any type of sexual trauma or anything like that, just the environment of what I was kind of going into. So I kind of went in for that aspect. eyes wide open. Um, but everybody's not like that, and especially dealing with any type of over, I guess, the attention that is over what you have been used to, depending on what type of female you are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't. That's not something that is. I don't think it's Shelley. Just to answer your question, I didn't get that addressed in recruit. You know what? I can't say. Well, it wasn't addressed in a way that it was necessarily positive or negative. When I was supposed to go to Korea, got injured before I was going to Korea, but I got my what am I trying to say? Um, I got
Briefing,
my. Would you say?
briefing.
Yeah, I got my briefing. I got all of that. And now when I went home, it was before I was going to go. It was around Christmas. Um, I talked to my recruiter, and she was like, "Oh, you're going to have fun in Korea. It's so many men, and it's not that many women, and you got to da 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 da." And I'm just like, "What the heck?" Like, this is the conversations we had, and this is a woman recruiter, so she wasn't giving it in the sense of, "Okay, watch your back." She was looking like, "Girl, go down there, have some fun, and make them pay for everything." Literally, like that was the
Yeah, what was
conversation.
the saying? Queen for a year? Is that what it was called?
Right,
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
right.
No,
That's not a positive
It's not.
term.
It's not.
And that's what they teach us female. Oh, you're gonna be queen for a year. You're getting deployed. Oh, game on. No,
Right.
that's not fun. That's why I had to switch units. I didn't like being one of four females. It's
Right.
extremely uncomfortable. My recruiter never told me, more than likely, you're going to be in a unit full of males. No, not comfortable at all. And I'm not a shy person. I don't get uncomfortable easily, but that made me uncomfortable.
Right. And that's what I was telling her. I was like, that doesn't, because I don't remember, she gave me the ratio at the time. And I want to say it was like 40 to 1. That's what I want to say. I don't remember the number. So it was one female to 40 males. So but she was, like I said, saying this in a like it's a positive thing, and I'm looking like that doesn't sound fun to me. That doesn't sound fun at all. So yeah, I think a lot of people just think about it in a different way. I don't know. Anybody else had anybody address the situation, maybe in a different way of actually educating and trying to
I
basically.
had in my recruiting station when I got recruited. I never saw a woman recruiter ever. It was all males, and they were all probably in their late 20s at the time or early 30s, and I was 18, 19. And I remember I knew because the Marine Corps is already the very smallest branch of service out of the entire military. And I knew that women were not a large percentage of that. And that didn't turn me off because I too grew up around a lot of males. I'm the oldest of two other brothers. My uncle grew up with us. He was a little bit older than me, so he was like having an older brother. My dad raised me very much as if I was his son, as much as his daughter. I was an athlete. And so I was always that girl that played basketball with boys or soccer or baseball or, just hanging out even. Just I wasn't a big dater growing up outside of my husband at the time. And so that didn't deter me, but nobody in that beginning stage ever said, and it could be a problem for you per se. But I recall being at 29 Palms because that's where communication school is. And that when I went, our class was the largest class of women that had ever shown up there. And the minute we arrived, we had this Hispanic gunnery sergeant. I can't remember his name, but every other word out of his mouth was the F word. Like it was, I don't know how he spoke so eloquently while using that word, every other word, but he made it work. But he genuinely cared. I believe that. He never treated us poorly. and he started to kind of give us those warnings, as soon as we arrived. He was like, look, y'all got to watch out for each other. This is a grunt training base. CAX happens there, a lot of flight line training. And so there's a lot of warrior units coming in and out of that base. And although we're in school and we don't have a lot of libo, you go to the E Club and there's 12 of us. And we're all in great shape because we just got out of boot camp. And there's like 4,000 male Marines there. And so when you have that first experience, you're like, whoa. And I remember like maybe the third or fourth weekend we were there, and there was a pool party. And this is a janky ass pool on base. And we all went to the pool party. And I was menstruating at the time, so I didn't have a bathing suit on, but I had a skirt on and my bathing suit underneath. And I remember there, back then we didn't have camera phones, but there was a male who had a video camera who was filming everything. And, everybody's drinking and having a good time underage too. But at some point in time, one of my male classmates who I was friends with, who actually kind of took a protective role with us, started to get in a fight with another male Marine, and we didn't know what was going on. And come to find out, the other male Marine with the video camera at some point in time had filmed under my skirt. Wow. And was showing people, because you could see the string from my tampon hanging out or whatever, my underwear at the time. And so like this other male Marine stood up for me and kind of like was going to beat this guy up until he deleted it and stopped showing it. And so that was like my first experience of like a negative engagement of somebody just being harmful to me as a woman, in an environment that was predominantly male and taking advantage of me. But I was happy that another male Marine at that point had stood up for me. But that doesn't happen very often. Yeah. In my assault cases, they were people who I thought were my brothers and my friends, and would take care of me. But then in the end, when they had the opportunity to take advantage of me, they did. So I don't remember the original question because I know I go on a tangent, but okay. it just, there is no warning. You just kind of, just like you said, like it's a random person you're going to have fun in Korea because, all these dudes are going to give you all this attention. So it's like what happened in her career that then made her think that was appropriate. Right. And then that's appropriate message to then put onto you to then go and be a woman that accepts that kind of attention. Right. Versus, you're going to be over there and you really get to work hard and you get to see an amazing country and these other things that are far more important than receiving male attention.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else have anything?
We have I don't have anything. We have a question on, I shared it on my personal page. Can I ask it? Is
Go
that
ahead.
okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
Has anybody heard of incels? So I was looking it up, and it looks like it's an involuntary group of involuntary celibates. So
never heard of that. No.
I never heard of it, but from the Air Force Times, it says it cautions troops to beware of sexless involuntary celibates. So,
what is that even mean?
That's what I'm trying to figure out. It cautions. What I mean, I'm not understanding what.
Let me go to the article. I'll read some of it to you.
Okay.
A safety brief analyzing security concerns at one military installation offered up an eccentric example of a potential hazard when instructors warned airmen in attendance of the growing threat of incels, or involuntary celibates, the online-based community of introverted, sexless individuals that may have started decades ago as an innocuous attempt at achieving a sense of belonging has in recent years become a label for a more aggressive sect of repugnant men who cast the entirety of the blame for their coitus-free existence onto women. This scorn has manifested into the form of heinous misogyny shared over online message boards and in a handful of cases has escalated into deadly violence.
I didn't realize there was a
I
term
didn't
out
even.
there categorizing them.
Yeah.
That
One
in
of
the
the.
Marine Corps, we had a really big issue with social media pages of male Marines, past, present, that were called Marines United. And any picture of any nudes of any women Marines they could procure were being shared on this site.
Wow.
Women were being ridiculed. In this age of Instagram, different women have different profiles, so they would take advantage of that and then re-image their profile into sexual exploitation pages, and then these women would get harassed by men all over the country. Um, I think it's sickening. I think it's probably always been there, but in the age of modern technology, it's getting more sophisticated.
Yeah.
And it's allowing these people to operate. And it was very scary. It's still scary because they still come out with new pages that people have to shut down and investigate. But it very much is a thing,
Wow.
definitely.
Somebody posted, it's usually males who can't get females and they become overly aggressive.
Yeah,
Sounds about
exactly.
right. Sounds about
SDE, small dick energy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Micro
Yeah.
pains.
Yes.
Micro micro pain aggression.
Yeah. I mean, this is the stuff that serial killers are made of.
You're
I mean,
right.
and this is why we have the extremes like Vanessa Guillen,
Yeah.
and why we're doing this today because enough is enough. We're tired of it.
Right.
Like, I don't care what it takes to root out this type of evil.
Yeah. I agree. I wanted to read the Military Sexual Assault Prevention Act of 2013, and then get your ladies' opinion about it. So, the Military Sexual Assault Prevention Act of 2013 prohibits any person convicted under federal or state law of rape, sexual assault, forcible sodomy, or incest from being commissioned or enlisting in the armed services, requires administrative separation from the armed services when not punitively charged for any member of the armed services on active duty and any reserve member in an active status who is convicted of rape, sexual assault, forced sodomy, or an attempt of, allows the Secretary of the Military Department concerned to waive such a separation in the interest of national security on a case by case basis. Directs the Secretary of Defense with respect to any charge under the Uniform Code of Military Justice that alleges any of the covered offenses to require the military department secretaries to restrict deposition authority to specified high command officers authorized to convene special court martial under the UCMJ.
Mm.
States as the policy of the United States that any charge regarding the covered offenses should be disposed of by court martial rather than non-judicial punishment or administrative action. Requires a commanding officer who receives a report of sexual related offense involving the member to act upon the report within 24 hours, including by submitting the report to the next higher officer in that chain of command or referring such report to the appropriate Office of Special Investigation. Requires inclusion in a member's personnel service record of a substantiated complaint of sexual, sorry, let me read that again. Requires inclusion in a member's personnel service record of a substantiated complaint of a sexual related offense. Required Commanding officers review of a member's history of substantiated sexual offenses upon the member transferring to a new command. And lastly and not least, require sexual assault forms and records to be retained for at least 50 years. Okay, ladies, I know that's a
And who
lot.
gives a shit because it's all internal, you know?
Yes.
Thank
Okay,
So
that's
you.
there's
where I
the
want to go.
problem.
Exactly.
That's where I wanted to go with
Exactly.
this. So, what is missing?
You know,
Oversight
and
outside of the commanding base.
External monitoring organization. There needs to be an
yeah,
external HR type department that is created for all branches of the military. You can't have the military investigating the military. We know
right.
this. We already know this. There's been too many before Vanessa, and it's the reason why what happened to Vanessa happened to her. Obviously, she knew that she didn't have an outlet. She knew she didn't have somebody to go to. How can you go to somebody in your your chain of command or whatnot when they're the ones harassing you? So who
Right.
do you go to?
Right.
Who do you go to? You can't. And what did Vanessa do? She went to her family. She had no way out. She didn't have what she needed and what there needs to be in place. There needs to be an external party that is set up. And I know it's going to take a lot, but it's eventually it's got to happen. I
Yeah.
mean, that's so obvious, like what we talked about earlier, a couple of nights ago, when
Right.
you're, an officer's, wife is being, battered or sexually assaulted by her own husband. She can't call the police,
Right.
he is the police, it's the same concept.
Right. I
And
agree.
what you get charged with in the service does not usually go out into the civilian world with you. So imagine all the people who have been held right to the UCMJ and went through court martial or did time, but it's still not on the same level as civilian law. And then they get out and go into your community, and you don't know shit about it because they
Right.
don't have to tell anybody they were in the military. Nobody really looks at that shit,
Right.
and so now you've got this person who got away with aggression in the service however many times they did. What do you think they're going to do in your community now?
Exactly.
Yeah. I've always said, I've been saying, Vanessa, the girl I went to school with in Colorado, she was from Houston, but she was stationed in Colorado years ago. She got killed there, and she had been complaining to her leadership, and they did nothing, and she was stabbed, I want to say over 60, 70 times or something. The problem the problem is, and you gotta have an outside source. You gotta have somewhere where if I'm raped, I can call and say, you know what, this is what's going on at my unit. I'm gonna tell my supervisors, but I need to know that if they don't do anything, that you'll have my back and you'll come on this base, and this is gonna have to come down from the top, from the White House, and say, this is the company that's going to be policing the military. Somebody,
Yeah.
we can't trust, at the end of the day, we can't trust our higher leadership with respect to them. That's fine. You can do everything else. You can lead in other parts. You can lead us in war. You can do all that. But what you cannot do is continue to let these sexual assaults go on.
Yeah, and then there's no protection for the victim because
Right.
if you're reporting to your leadership, I mean, 9 times out of 10, it's your leadership who's violating you.
Right.
And then you report it to them, and yeah, they may follow due process, but then immediately your life becomes hell. And nobody wants to deal with that shit when you're already dealing with the hypersensitivity of being maybe the only woman in your unit. And so at the minute that something like that happens, and I guarantee you, if we had the processes in place, the reduction would happen almost immediately. Because if when I got raped, was able to say, you know what, I'm taking myself out of this equation right now, and I'm going to this department, and then now they're going to just protect me until all this is over. Like, I shouldn't even have to see anybody else in my unit because I should be in treatment. I should be getting the help that I need to overcome the trauma starting immediately, while knowing that other people are advocating the justice that I deserve.
I agree. That's good.
Yeah.
Very true. I think that it's hard. What people, when I say people, I mean like people that have never served. I think what they don't understand, because they're like, just report it. But I think what they don't understand is we have something when we get out that's called, our DD 214, and it dictates what type of discharge we get out on. We do everything in our power to get out on an honorable discharge. And in the civilian world, you get fired from your job. It's not marked on a piece of paper that is carried around with you the rest of your life.
Right.
It takes, if you get an honorable, a dishonorable discharge, everything that you did in the military is just basically wiped out. Nobody cares. That's like the biggest, black cloud basically hanging over your head everywhere you go. And I think that people just don't understand that, because it is your chain of command that is typically the ones that are abusing the power. They hold your career. They hold your career in their hands, and it's just something that we can't afford. That's why I think there's such a major disconnect that people don't understand. So I think that's also something that needs to be discussed and brought up of, why, because I think some people might be like, well, man, just say something, just report it. What's your problem? No, it's not that easy,
Yes.
because this affects our career. And that's why so many females have to keep their mouth shut, because it's your career on the line. You just take it and you stay quiet and you go on, because you're trying to protect yourself.
Yeah. Goodness. The next, I'm going to kind of flow into this because I got my master's in law, and I actually wrote a paper dealing with this, and it was on this, actually my actual first dog tags I ever had, and we were given this
Ah,
at boot. Do you remember this?
Oh.
yeah,
Mhm.
leadership.
So these were
Yeah.
the
Loyalty, duty, the seven:
right.
respect, selfless service, honor, integrity, personal courage. Yes.
So that
Yes.
right there is what we were supposed to be, what we were supposed to be representing. So the paper that I wrote in my, because it was a domestic violence law class, and I wrote merging U.S. military values with sexual assault justice, because this is what we're supposed to be standing for, and that is not what we're seeing. So I'm just going to go over some of the points. It's so funny. I'm so silly. I was reading over. Shivali, you did a pretty good job writing this paper. That's why you got an A.
That's right.
So I was, some of the points I was making, and I'm trying to figure out where to start because it's pretty long. But to your point, Christine, it's not that easy when a victim is assaulted, and the whole process is totally different than a civilian process. So, and I think the people that have not been in the military should know that the process is different, and the trauma is different. So in there was, I'm trying to find this quote that I put in my paper. I'm looking for. I don't know if I can find it really quickly, but the trauma is different. Let me just look at y'all. Trauma is different because in a civilian world, like you already kind of spoke to, is that you can get away from the situation, or Joanna, you kind of pointed to, like you can't get away. You're in the situation, you're at this place with your predator. Not only have you been victimized first, you usually, again, like you said, or at least two of you ladies have said, you're usually victimized by somebody in your chain of command. So either you're reporting to them, you got to salute to them, they're in your vicinity most of the time. So it's no getting away from this situation. So it's trauma up top of trauma. Along with that, there's, like you said, there's usually some type of retaliation. If you can't take the retaliation, it's like, what do you do? Because going to your point, Tremblay, this is your career now. It's not just any regular career. Your military career follows you like no other career. So not only you've been physically violated, you've been psychologically evaluated, you're emotionally a mess, and you still with that trauma on a daily, and it's just something that you just can't get away from. So people need to understand it is such a mess of entanglement that is not that easy, but it easy for the victims, but the process of eliminating this can be a little bit easy. And I wrote in my paper, again, I can't find this stuff, I should have highlighted when I was looking at it earlier, but the Israeli military has some some other protocols in place for victims of sexual trauma. And let me see if I can just find that. And then I made some recommendations. So, okay, let me see. Prevention Act additions. So, okay, so with the Israeli, their sexual and Israel sexual offenses and discipline proceedings can be only made by military advocate generals, attorneys, and not by commanders. In adjudication of lighter sexual offenses in disciplinary proceedings, and the presiding adjudication officer must be at least ranked a lieutenant colonel and either have a legal education or special training handling sexual harassment cases at the Israeli Defense Forces. And also, I was putting in there like some of the things that I think somebody said about adding an advocacy. Something needs to be a third party advocacy. I put some things to evaluate. I'm sorry, evaluating deposition authority must be, I'm sorry, for most of the serious issues should be done by a special either unit or, like I said, third party. Or and there should be so there's I think there is some type of special victims unit. Correct me if I'm wrong. I know they try to do something, but it just doesn't, in the legal term, have any teeth. It doesn't have any strength to that because again, it's going through your chain of command within, and everybody's interconnected. Um, Also,
Yeah, because most bases allow you to like file an IG complaint, and so now you're going up to the highest general. But if that general, is a classmate to your unit's general or major or somebody, or they're in the same club,
yeah,
of ideas, or I know in my situation, I remember it wasn't an assault, but it was later in my career, and it was a mass sergeant who was probably a couple years from retirement who was harassing me every day. Like, if you don't do this, then you can't have this, type of thing. And by that time, I was pretty empowered, and I had rank, and I had just gotten a lot smarter. And so I went and I had to play chess. Like, I had to go home and think, like, okay, what's the best course of action for me in this situation that I'm in again? And thank God it's not a full-on assault at this time, but I was fearing that it was going to gear that way. And so I literally had to, in fear, figure this out. And what I ended up doing was going to another senior ranking Marine who was the sergeant major of our entire unit, right? And going to him, skipping all kinds of levels of chain of command, and saying, hey, can I just have a sidebar coffee conversation with you? And then telling him, like, this is what's happening to me. Like, but the Marine Corps is important to me. Like, I want this to be my career. But I don't think that I need to be in this environment where this person has this power over me anymore. And I don't want to get into a big legal thing, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like, I'm sure this guy wants to retire, but whatever you can do to get me the hell away from him, I would greatly appreciate it.
Yeah.
And luckily, this sergeant major took action.
Awesome.
And he took me to the CO. We had a conversation. They brought in the master sergeant. They reprimanded him verbally. But, you know, it was impressed upon him that, you know, you're going to retire soon. You're doing things that are inappropriate that will affect your retirement. So quit the shit. And I wasn't the only woman who had forged a complaint. There were 3 other female Marines in other sections that he didn't even have direct chain over that he was doing this to. And so because I came forward, then those 2 came forward. So then it was like this big meeting, right?
Mm-hmm.
So luckily, I was removed. I was taken out of my, and then, so again, I have to make accommodations as the victim. So now I'm no longer with my peers, my teammates, and my MOS doing the things that I love to do, and I get assigned to work at headquarters where the sergeant major that I turned to worked. And they made a special billet for me to work directly for the XO at the time. They made it relevant to my communications MOS. Then I became responsible for security clearances for the command at the unit level, which was great for me at the time. But again, I had to, even still as the victim, think about a strategy that still leaves this man empowered, but doesn't bother me anymore. But who's to say in those 2 years, like, did he act right? I don't know. Probably not.
Probably not.
And, you know, these are the things that tell you that the way we've been doing it and all these little Band-Aids they keep doing, like when they made the SARC program and then like, oh, we're going to take somebody from the command and give you a special billet. And then now you deal with military sexual assault cases. You're the first go-to. But they're also from that command. They're probably a predator. So now you've given them the keys and the power to know what complaints are coming in and how to manipulate that situation so that you can continue to do the crimes that you're doing. And this is why we had on Fort Hood, the same damn base, a whole prostitution ring that was operated by the senior staff enlisted person that was the Sarco.
Wow.
So you cannot have internal anything. It's got to be a whole different, and it doesn't even have to be military. And that's what the Military Justice Information Act has been trying to do for years, because you can keep doing these reports and the numbers are still going to be there. But what the hell are you going to do to change the whole process so that they don't have control over that judiciary process? I mean, it just doesn't make sense to me. I don't really give a shit about double jeopardy, because crime in the military is absolved from crime in the civilian state.
Right.
And like I said, those people are still sexual predators.
Exactly.
Yep. Like, where, you know, you think, where is he now? And what has he done now on the civilian side? Because did anybody, you know, mandate that he take, you know, sexual classes, psych classes? Nothing. So yeah, it's so obvious. He got out, honorable discharge. He's walking around like he's, you know, the greatest thing. He protected our country. And it's so sad to think that there are probably victims now that he has, you know,
Let me tell you a quick,
but like in the civilian side, he's probably just continued his little game because there's no punishment.
Oh, I'm telling you. Let me tell you a quick story. So, like, 2 incidences that I had. Like, when Facebook, you know, like, I've been on Facebook since it started, but about 2 years ago, one of my fucking rapists had the audacity to send me a fucking friend request.
Wow.
Because in his mind, it's probably not rape. And he felt enough time passed that maybe he should reach out to me. And that was a very triggering event for me. And then fast forward, you know, I've been out since 2007. My kids were little at the time. I had 3. And when my boys got to high school, and they start playing football. And so you start going to the games, and I see a man at the games who's the father of one of my son's teammates. And I'm like, this guy looks so freaking familiar. Where do I know him from? And it's bugging me, and it's visceral. It's not a positive memory. And so out of nowhere, like I hear his name, right? Because his son has the same name. And so then I put it together, and I'm like, oh my God, I know that name. So when I was a poolee, this gentleman was a Marine, and he was a reservist in Arizona. He got put on PTAD orders to be like a recruiter's assistant, right? And I believe he was like a corporal at the time. And so we had this big annual poolee event. And so you go, I think we went to Mesa or somewhere, Chandler at the time, and I was from Glendale, so it was like going to Tucson at the time. And we had a big poolee event where like the drill instructors come out and simulate that experience. And, you know, we played games, did a lot of PT, had a barbecue, and you're out there all day. And so sundown, and then now everybody's getting sent home. Well, when you ride out there, you ride out in government vehicles with your recruiters or the PTAD assistant. So since we came from the West Valley and had to drive back, it was just me and that particular corporal. And so he's driving me back to Glendale. This is before they had any of the freeways out here, so it was really like just driving a lot of rural roads to get to the other side of town. And so when you get to Tempe, that center point, he started deviating off the path. And he drove the government vehicle underneath Tempe Bridge, you know, where all the homeless people hang out at the end of the night. And I'm like, why are we here? I need to go home. And he took that opportunity to tell me how attractive I was and how attracted he was to me. And then he exposed himself. And I was like mortified. I didn't know what was going to happen in that moment. And I just remember looking him dead in the face and saying, you'll take me home. Like, you'll put that away and you'll take me home. And he took, and he did. Thankfully, I was so lucky. But I never, ever said anything. So when I have this moment at this, you know, watching my kids play football, and I see it, and it all clicks. Like, it's so just like tragic to me. Like, I just feel it, right? So I call a good friend of mine who was a recruiter out here in Phoenix for many years and retired from here, and was in the office at the time. And I said, whatever happened to this guy? You know, like, and I was sharing with him what happened to me. And he said, oh my God. He was like, he got kicked off of his PTAD duty on recruiting duty for doing just what he did to me and many other female poolees that he had access to at the time. And many inappropriate things happened that were more escalated than my incident. But he was just sent back to his reserve unit or something. You know, there was not any real big giant punishment. So I tell my husband, you know, like who he is and all that stuff. And so we decide that, you know, when we go to games, stay just as far away from him as possible and not look at him, you know. But this is like me, you know, Friday Night Lights is a big deal. Both my boys play football, and like every time I'm there, I have to worry about this guy. And then randomly, like one of the last games of the last year that they were playing, we happened to come to the game a little bit late and parked in the parking lot, and I ended up parking right next to him, and he had just got there as well and got out of the car and saw the Marine Corps plate on my car. And so he immediately looks at my husband and says, hey, dog, you're a Marine? I was a Marine. And I like froze, which is totally out of my character because I usually just go at it, but I just froze. And my husband was like, no, I'm not the Marine. My wife is. And then he looked at me and he was like, oh, yeah. He was like, thank you for your service. And do you have your disability? I got 100%. Or he just said some crazy shit to me. And at this time, I'm working in veteran advocacy as well and doing a lot of stuff with women veterans. It's just sickening me to me. And then I just looked him dead in the face and I was like, you should probably remember every person you've ever abused. And I just walked away.
Wow.
And he never made eye contact with me again after that. But it's like, I never had imagined that I would ever, A, see him again. And then B, I had to see him every Friday night for 4 fucking years.
Wow. Wow.
And it took him the last year to even, say anything or acknowledge me. So, like, and I look pretty much the same.
Yeah.
So that tells me you've had way too many victims.
Exactly.
And then it sickened me because then I was like, he's at a freaking high school game every week. And there's nothing but young girls here. And so I was just in a space. I was just always so sad every Friday.
Wow. Oof.
I'm so glad that you said something to him, because not saying that it will ever take back what he did, but you know that it put him in his place, and he was probably like, "Oh damn." But it's so unfortunate that it's a cycle, because obviously nothing was ever done to him either. No treatment, no nothing. So it makes you wonder, what type of father is he? What has he taught his son?
Right.
And I'm not saying that he's a bad father. I'm definitely not stating that, but it just makes you wonder. It makes you wonder.
That's the thing, going back to recruiting and the enlistment process. I think that needs to be a focus, because you're training psychopaths. If you don't get them the obvious ones, because I feel somebody might be triggered when they get in there, but if you don't get the obvious ones, you're training psychopaths to be better psychopaths, and then you're putting them back out into the general public, and you're not understanding the repercussions of that clearly, because it continues to happen. So if you don't deal with it, try to at least mitigate the problem at the beginning by the psych evaluations, by doing as much as possible, even through the basic training portion. If you see something, that should be the time that you're evaluating consistently how people are operating psychologically. Like, they'll throw you out for some stupid stuff. I remember when I went to boot camp, this girl, her neck started throbbing every time we went on a run, and she got kicked out. So if you could kick somebody out for that, you need to really evaluate the people that are around you. Even this one guy, there's another young lady that I went to boot camp with, and she had an incident when I was there that a guy basically grabbed or brushed against her breast or something. And I don't even remember, but I got pulled into the situation. And even with that, there should have been more. Now, in retrospect, I'm like, there should have been more done. If he's doing that then, and it was, it's basically beating our head, no fraternization during that time of training, and you're doing that stuff now, that's a problem. So I think there just needs to be a lot more when it comes to psychological evaluation, because you train these people, they get trained, they break you down to build you up. You're getting trained to be the certain type of person, and why would you want to build that training in to a psychopath? I don't know. That's my 2 cents on that.
That's fair. I think, again, it goes back to the culture on why people join. Why, especially why psychopaths and sociopaths join, because they know that they can get away with it. And again, stopping it at the beginning level when you first get in, whether through testing or again, teaching how they do, like you said, all the training. I think we have a week of training for firearms. They can
stop.
They can have a week of
training your sleep.
Right.
You can have a week of training on how to deal with male soldiers and how to deal with female
Mm-hmm.
servicemen and women. And so I think it, we have to start there where you're training us so that, because there's a lot of things that we've learned in basic, like when you put the values up. I mean, automatically my mind goes into,
Right.
remembering them. When we
Oh,
say the first line of the creed,
Right.
it just rolls off because we used to have to say it so much. So if you know that this is a problem in the culture of the military, then let's, just like you make us remember all this other stuff, maybe we come up with a creed when it comes to sexual assault and sexual harassment, and have that embedded in us too,
Right.
so that we feel protected. Because what stands out to me in the creed is that, I will never leave a fallen comrade. And
Right.
I feel like so many of us have gotten left behind because nobody was there to protect us. You'll protect me. You'd rather protect me getting shot at or something, but you can't protect me when it comes to, sexual assault. I have a problem with that. I have a
Right.
problem with that.
mm-hmm.
Okay, ladies, we're gonna start wrapping this up. Does any of our people that are still on the chat with us and live with us, do you have any questions? And while I'm waiting for that, okay, going back to the training, this is a question for you panel ladies. When should this training be given, and what method should it be disseminated to make it most effective?
I would say, but even before the training, you have to take a step back, and it needs to start at MEPS. And when you're being processed in, there needs to be an eval, because we are physically evaluated, but we're not psychologically evaluated. So that's first and foremost. We're missing a whole step right
Right.
there. And
Yeah.
then the training, it needs to be implemented, basic training. And then, for Army, and I'm not as familiar as the term for the other branches of the military, but when we go to AIT and learn our job, it needs to be implemented there. Every post that you're assigned to, it needs to be implemented there. It needs to be something that never goes away. It needs to be something like your inspection sticker on your car. You got to renew it every year.
Right.
Why do we not have to
Yeah.
do this core concept of protection and assault, and what not to do, and how we shouldn't act? And it's something that needs to be reiterated every
Every
year.
step of the
Every
way.
year you have to
Yeah.
Well,
go.
and they can start at a lot of different levels, to include that level of better inclusiveness all across the nation, so we don't have just market representation of females in the military.
Yeah.
For instance, when I became a recruiter, I really wanted to recruit from Arizona, because that's where I had come from most recently, and my family was there, and I knew that they could help support me. But because I was only one of a few women selected that year to go to recruiter school, I got sent to Denver, Colorado, because they had never had a female recruiter before, and they wanted somebody there for representation, so that when anybody put a female poolee in, they could come to me and ask me things and have a woman to woman type conversation. But that's not enough.
Yeah.
I had to meet numbers and then run across town all the time to accommodate other recruiters. If there's women, break up that disparaging number. Put more women in, flank them in. Because
Yeah.
frankly, we've already proven that we're just as capable, and it's a level playing field if there's more of us or less of us. So go ahead and change that number drastically, so that there's more representation of women. And women should be everywhere that you are integrated into the service, so that we don't ever become an anomaly. And that a man can't be like, well, I served 10 years and I never even saw a woman. So those whole number game could change a lot.
Yeah.
And then women, because we're this hyper subsect, and because of this misogynist culture, it's created that infighting between women in those small numbers, because we're competing. And so if you drive those numbers up, you're going to improve relationships overall. And then just like you said, there's no reason why we can't integrate measures at every level. When we were in the service, we had mandatory annual training that every unit had to go through, separate from our military service, which was like all the sex ed stuff, think how to manage your finances and all those other things, or you have to take PME classes, or at each rank you go to a new school. Well, guess what? That whole conversation about sexual inclusion without violence should be part of that curriculum all the time. And if you have more women represented in all ranks, I mean, my 10 years of service, and I never ever had a woman officer that I saw or was around. And that's a problem. The highest enlisted women I ever saw was when I was at boot camp, because we have a command that goes all the way up to general that are women at the women's battalion. And so that creates all these problems. I never had a woman leader to turn to, or if there was on base, she was probably emotionally taxed from dealing with all the people that she could try to help.
Right.
Or maybe she was trained to not give a damn about us because she wanted to fit a mold so she could keep her upward trajectory, and not worry about the rest of us. And that's the culture that was created out of this. And that disparity keeps it that way. So make it 50-50.
Right. I agree.
Yeah, I know for me and Anika, we had a female officer that was over our section when we were deployed to Kosovo. And you can ask anybody in our section, did she have any business being in charge of us? Absolutely
not.
She was extremely inexperienced, and multiple events of rape occurred. And do you think that anybody went to her?
Wow.
Thinking we got a female officer. This is great. Our OIC is female. We can relate to her. She can relate to us. She'll have our back. Absolutely not. So that's another problem, is the leadership in certain situations is not even equipped to be in a leadership position. You can still be an officer and not be in charge of troops the way that, and she was heavily, involved with us, working by our side and whatnot. But there was such a disconnect, and that's a huge problem. And it's very unfortunate, because she could have been a key turning point for us because she was a female. But did not happen, not even close. And hopefully she went on and became a better officer, and there was maybe another female that she was able to help out. But I can tell you from our experience on her watch during that deployment, no, didn't happen, not even close.
Wow.
It's terrible.
So any of you ladies have any closing remarks?
I just want to say that the messages I'm getting on my page, one of the ladies, I want to say she was an E8, E7, but I served with her in Iraq, I think. Yeah, Iraq. But she would love to, be of service and come and talk about her experience, in the service as well, and get the dialogue going on what we can do, from our end, and getting our, politicians to take notice, kind of all over the country. I know there's some states that take it more seriously than others, but I really feel that just as in the instance with racism, George Floyd really kind of changed how we view police, and kind of just it's like it stops at him, like
Right.
we have to do something about this police culture. So for me, Vanessa is the same thing. We have to do something about the culture in the military, the rape culture in the military, the misogynist, the power culture, because that's what it's about, is someone having power over you, and you're being helpless. So we need to for me, my goals with this group is to help trying to establish that outside entity that servicemen and women can call anytime and say, this is what happened to me on this base. I need help.
Yeah.
You know, we need to get our, legislators, we need to get them behind us to speak for us, or we go speak at the White House and say, this is the problem. And it stops at Vanessa. And
Mhm.
just, giving servicemen and women an outlet to where they can share and start to feel comfortable. Because even when I shared my story on my page a few weeks ago, there were women that messaged me and said, you know, I'm not ready
Yeah.
yet. I'm not there yet. I'm not brave enough to share my story. So if I feel like if enough of us start like just sharing our life and sharing like, okay, this is what happened to me, but this is how I overcame.
Hmm.
I feel like more women will be, we can start that healing track. You know what
Right.
I mean?
Right.
So,
I
uh,
definitely second that. In the work that I do, storytelling is the most powerful tool that we have. And so many of these stories have not been heard, or when they come out, they seem isolated. Um, and in this day and age in modern technology, even, I meet women who have served honorably that will not call themselves a veteran,
Hmm.
because they've been told they're not one because they didn't serve in a war campaign, or they didn't have an important enough MOS, or they were just a reservist or just in the Guard. And I want to press upon the audience to share far and wide any woman you know that has served in the United States military in any capacity is a veteran. In
Exactly.
any experience you've had, share it. There are phenomenal storytelling programs that are out there through agencies like the Library of Congress, where you can just give an account of your story of your journey in the service, into the service, while in, and your exit out, and what became of your life. And these are stories that they want, because it's not just about the person who landed on a grenade.
Right.
These are American stories of people who are willing to raise that hand for any sacrifice.
Right.
The more of everybody's story that we know of, the more accepting we become as a society. When it seems isolated, people are like, oh, it doesn't affect me. And they can
Right.
turn their eye and move on. And then drop a tear when it happens the next year and they happen to hear about it. But I really empower women to reach deep and find any way to share your story. And you don't have to get into specifics, but if you can just say, I am a woman veteran, or I am a woman service member, and yes, things need to change.
Right.
I was affected just for my gender. Just sharing those stories, and with your audiences, they go far and wide. And since Vanessa happened, and I've been pretty open for many years, but I've been more specific because the story resonates with me so very much. Um, and so it's empowered me, impassioned me.
Right.
And if you're not comfortable sharing your story, all of us should be doing this anyway. But we have the power, we have the voice for congressional inquiry.
Hmm.
All you need to do is write a letter, call your representatives in your state, demand it, organize women in your local area to demand these changes. We have a tool, it's our voice, it's our vote, and we need to get on the court for all of women. And this is not a political issue, this is a woman's issue. We need to come together across all aisles and fight for our right to due process and protection. And you don't have to expose yourself to do that. You can just say, yes, I'm a woman veteran. This is a problem. We must fix it. And if you
Right.
want to continue being our elected official, you will join with us and fix this.
Thank you for that. That was good. That was excellent. We do, for the audience, want to continue this conversation. If you have any questions or topics that you want us to discuss, please put it down in the comment section, and we will get to as many questions as we can going further, and also try to put together an actual stream panel our next go round
Get
on
there.
any topic. We're step by step, but I think the audience, they were very they participated and asked a lot of good questions. So, like we said, we want to keep the conversation going. We don't want to stop as the hype dies down in the media. That's not what this is about. It's not even a hype session. This is about bringing attention to a much needed issue that's been perpetual for a long time. And we're just
Yeah.
trying to bring some tangible, for real, tangible change that we can actually see and make available to future women that are actually wanting to join services. I know I have a niece that wants to join a service, and it makes me nervous because she's such a itty bitty impressionable thing, and I'm gonna go like, ugh. But we don't want to feel that way when we hear our loved ones say that they want to join the service, and that should be something that we press upon our political
Yeah, we want to
officials as well.
celebrate that.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yes, yes, it's a beautiful thing when you see a woman in a military
it
uniform, and
is.
I know that we all feel that way. It like just does something for me. I'm like, wow, that's so awesome. But at the same time, you want to know that she's protected every step of the way. And so
Exactly.
what you
Yeah,
were saying, Layla,
absolutely.
yeah, this isn't just a hype session, and I think it's important for people to understand that this is just the beginning.
Exactly.
And this is not something that we're just okay. We're going to discuss it, and thanks for listening in. No, this is the first step.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's the proudest thing I've ever done in my life that I don't want to pass on to my children.
Yes. So true.
Mm-hmm.
So true.
That's true.
That is that is a deep statement, and that's a very true statement. Wow. Thank you, ladies, and for all of those on. If you want to hear, like I said, more conversations like this, please like the page, but also please put some subject matters that you want discussed. I will be creating a man's panel, and then maybe a panel with men and women so we can discuss topics among ourselves. But I do want to hear the male perspective of this, because we always talk about the negative and the predatorial male, but there are some good male soldiers out there, and I don't want to
Yes, there
pass them
are.
up.
Yes,
And I
Um,
yes,
want to
yes,
get their
yes.
perspective.
I can testify to that.
Yeah,
Definitely.
and I had talked to a gentleman, I call him my brother, up in San Antonio, and we had a discussion. And I'm not going to get long into this because it's been long enough, but we had a discussion, and hopefully I can get him on to get his statement. But he had a situation where a woman ran into the barracks screaming that she got raped from somebody they knew, and that was such an impression on him. So throughout his military career, he was more of that advocate for females and protecting them in a sense. But I don't think from what I got from him in the conversation, I don't think, since we're from the stories even we have said, a lot of the instances women have is from people that they trusted and thought of as their brothers. So a lot of the men that are the good ones, that are the advocates, that are the protectors, sometimes they don't even know how pervasive it is because those people don't associate with them. So they know that things have happened, and they know, but they don't know how, like I said, pervasive it is. And
mhm.
so I like I said, I'd love to have that conversation with, newly retired and some of the older generation of men, and get their perspective and what they think about it. So if that's something you want to listen to, please, like the page, and we'll send some more information out. And like I said, just put some more subjects in the question or the chat, and we'll try to hit as much as possible. So with that, ladies, thank you for being on my panel. Hopefully
Thank
we can
you.
do this again sometime soon. And everybody that joined, thank you so much. And let's keep this conversation going. All right, until the next time. See ya.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.